My name is Kane. I'm 32, live in the suburbs just outside of Portland, Oregon. I've been working as a handyman for over a decade now, fixing things, installing, repairing, patching, pretty much whatever people need. I used to hustle hard, take every job I could get just to stay afloat. But over the last few years, I built a solid reputation. Now I get to pick the jobs I want. I don't work out of desperation anymore. I work because, I enjoy it. I bought my own little place. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine, quiet street, good neighbors. My life in general is pretty steady. I was married once, yeah. We split up about 3 years ago. We just grew tired of each other. No drama, really. It just stopped working. We got a 5-year-old son, Max. He stays with her, but I see him every weekend, and I never miss it. He's my world. Still, once Monday hits, it's just me again, and I guess, yeah, that's the part that wears on me sometimes. The silence, the lack of someone to come home to. I'm not lonely all the time, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss having someone to share things with. But hey, that's life. Anyway, this story started on a Tuesday. Weather was mild, not too cold. I was going through a list of upcoming jobs on my phone, sipping coffee in the truck. One stood out: a repair gig in a newer neighborhood, replace 2 light fixtures in the living room, mount a flat screen on the wall. The price, $500. Shouldn't take more than 2 or 3 hours, easy money. I tapped accept and called the number listed. A woman picked up. Her voice was calm, polite, sounded young. She gave me the address, said she'd be home all day, and we agreed I'd come by around 10:00 to take a look before starting. When I pulled up, I noticed the place right away. Neat lawn, modern siding, tasteful little porch set up with a hanging chair. Nice place. Either she bought it recently or kept it in great shape. I grabbed my clipboard and knocked. She opened the door a second later. Brown hair pulled back, soft features, maybe late 20s, early 30s. She wore a sweatshirt and jeans, casual but put together. Her name was Marley. "Hi, you must be Kane," she said with a smile, stepping aside to let me in. Her voice was familiar. It was definitely the one from the phone. "Yep, that's me. Just here to check the space and see what I'm working with." She walked me into the living room, explaining what she wanted done. The room was spacious, bright, with tall windows and simple furniture. The 2 old ceiling lights definitely needed replacing, and a new TV was still in its box, leaned up against the wall. "That's the one I need mounted," she pointed. "I bought the bracket. It's over there." "Perfect," I said. "This should be no problem. I'll just run out and grab my tools, then we'll get started." Most clients usually leave me to it. They go make phone calls, cook, watch TV, whatever. But not Marley. From the moment I came back in with my toolbox, she stayed nearby. Not hovering uncomfortably, but clearly interested. "So, how do you usually anchor a TV like that?" "Does it depend on what's behind the wall?" she asked, standing with her arms folded, watching me unpack. "Yeah, exactly," I said. "I'll use a stud finder first to make sure it's secured into the framing. Drywall alone won't hold this thing." She nodded, genuinely engaged. "Make a sense. I'd be terrified to do this myself." I chuckled. "You'd be surprised how many people try." She laughed too. "And end up calling someone like you when it crashes to the floor, huh?" "Pretty much." We kept talking as I worked. I tried to focus, but she was easy to talk to, curious without being annoying. She asked about the tools, how electrical work is done, how I learned the trade. I told her about growing up fixing stuff around my dad's garage, told her how I eventually turned that into a job after getting sick of office work in my early 20s. "So you like it?" she asked. "I love it. I get to work with my hands, make my own schedule, and avoid office politics. Hard to beat." She smiled again. "You seem like someone who enjoys what he does. That's rare." I tightened the last screw on the first light fixture and glanced at her. "Well, it took time to get here, but yeah, I enjoy it." When I moved on to the TV, she pulled over a chair, not even trying to hide the fact that she wanted to stay nearby. I'd be lying if I said I didn't notice, and truth be told, it didn't bother me. She was easy to talk to, asked smart questions, and there was something about her, maybe the way she looked at things, or just the energy in the room. It was subtle, but something about this wasn't just another job. I was halfway through mounting the TV when she brought me a glass of water without asking. That wasn't unusual. Some clients are polite like that, but the way she handed it to me with this soft kind of warmth in her eyes, it made me pause for a second. She didn't say anything dramatic, just, Thought you might need this, and smiled, but it lingered in my mind. Thanks, I said, wiping my hands before taking the glass. She sat down on the edge of the couch, still watching me work. Do you ever get bored doing this kind of thing over and over again? I shrugged. Honestly, not really. Each job's different in its own way, and I like the rhythm. Some people need quiet to think. For me, drilling holes and lining things up straight is what clears my head. She smiled, looking down at her hands. That sounds nice, having something that makes you feel settled. I nodded and returned to the wall bracket. What about you? What do you do? She hesitated like she wasn't sure how much to share. I used to work in marketing agency life, long hours, short deadlines. I left about a year ago. Oh yeah, burned out. Yeah, and tired of chasing clients who didn't care. These days, I do some freelance stuff from home enough to get by. There was a short silence, the kind that didn't feel awkward, just thoughtful. I finished drilling the final hole, stepped back to check if the bracket was level. It was. As I started unpacking the TV from its box, she stood up and walked over to the window, standing with her arms loosely crossed. My ex-husband didn't think I needed a career, she said, her voice soft. He said I was wasting time with creative crap. I didn't know what to say at first. She wasn't looking for pity, I could tell that much. It felt more like she needed to say it out loud. He sounds like a real motivational speaker, I said with a smirk, trying to keep the tone light. That made her laugh a little. It was a lot of things. You guys divorced recently. Almost 3 years now, she said, still facing the window. It's funny how fast time goes when you're trying to forget something. I paused what I was doing and looked over at her. The way she stood there wasn't dramatic. No tears, no visible heartbreak, just this quiet weight she carried in her posture. You have any kids? I asked gently. She shook her head. No, we tried, but it never happened. He blamed me, I blamed myself. But in the end, I think the real problem was we didn't love each other the way we should have. I leaned against the wall, letting the silence settle. I've been around enough people to know when someone was trying to process something, not just talk. I've got a son, I finally said. He's 5 weekends with me. I don't always know what I'm doing, but I show up. That counts for something, I hope. She turned around, leaning back lightly against the window frame. It does. For a few seconds, we just looked at each other, not in some cheesy romantic way, more like two adults who've been through some life, quietly acknowledging it. I went back to the TV, lined it up on the bracket, and started attaching it. She came a little closer, arms crossed again. I didn't think I'd tell you all that, she said with a nervous chuckle. I usually don't with strangers. I don't think we're strangers anymore, I replied without thinking. She looked at me. No, I guess we're not. I tightened the last bolt, made sure the TV was secured, and stepped aside so she could see. There you go, solid centered and ready for a Netflix binge. She grinned. That's perfect. Thank you. I started packing up my tools while she stood nearby. Then right as I was about to grab the last screwdriver, she said it. Can I ask you something? She said quietly. Sure. She hesitated just long enough to make me look up. Do you think I deserve to be happy? I blinked. The question wasn't casual. It wasn't one of those rhetorical things people throw out during small talk. She meant it. She was searching for something real validation, maybe? Or maybe she just wanted someone to look her in the eyes and say what she couldn't say to herself. I didn't rush to answer. I stood there for a second, really taking in her expression. I don't know everything you've been through, I said slowly. But from where I'm standing, yeah, I think you do. She looked at me, her eyes a little shinier than before, and nodded once, not dramatically, just enough to say thank you without needing the words. I finished packing up in silence, not an awkward silence, but one filled with something new. Like we both acknowledged something we hadn't said out loud before. As I walked to the door with my toolbox, she followed. Thanks again, Kane, she said softly, for everything. I turned to her. It was just a simple repair. She smiled gently. Maybe not that simple. The next few days were quiet. I kept working, stayed busy with other jobs, but I couldn't stop thinking about that moment, about the way she asked me if she deserved to be happy, the tone in her voice, the look in her eyes. It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't a test. It felt honest, raw, like something she'd been holding in for a long time and finally let out. Normally, I move on from a job the second it's done. It's part of the lifestyle. Go in, do the work, get paid on to the next. But something about Marley made it hard to do that this time. There was a weight to her that stuck with me, but also a lightness underneath it, like someone who just needed a break in the storm. By Thursday, I found myself hovering over her contact in my phone more than once. I didn't want to seem like I was crossing a line. She was a client after all. But then I remembered how she looked at me when I answered her question. There was something real there. I couldn't ignore it. So I sent a message. Hey, Marley, hope your new lights and TV are still holding strong. If you're free Sunday evening, I'd love to grab that coffee. No pressure. I hit send and put my phone down. Didn't even take 5 minutes, Marley. I'd love that. There's a quiet place near the park on Maple Street, 6:00 p.m. Simple casual, but I won't lie, my heart jumped a little. Sunday came around and I pulled up to the cafe 15 minutes early. That's just who I am, early for everything. I grabbed a seat on the patio, ordered a coffee, and waited. It was one of those places with string lights and mismatched chairs. Nothing fancy, just cozy. She showed up right on time, casual jeans, dark green coat hair down. This time, she looked comfortable and calm. Hey, she said, smiling as she sat down. Hey, I replied. Glad you made it. They brought her coffee, and for a moment we just sipped in silence, adjusting to the shift in context. This wasn't a job anymore. This was something else. I almost didn't come, she said after a while. Oh yeah, not because I didn't want to, she clarified quickly. I did, but I wasn't sure if I was ready for, well, anything. I nodded. I get that. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I should ask. She gave me a sideways look. Why did you? I leaned back a little, choosing my words. Because you asked me a question that stuck with me, and I don't know, I felt like there was more there, and I wanted to know what it was. Marley looked down at her cup, her fingers running along the rim. There is a lot more, but I've gotten good at hiding it. Then maybe we just start with a little, I said. You don't owe me anything. She took a breath. I was married for 6 years. We met young, too young probably. He was charming at first, made big promises, said he loved that I was creative, passionate, driven. But after we got married, all that started to bother him. He wanted me to calm down, stop trying so hard. He said my ambition made him feel like he wasn't enough. I didn't interrupt, just listen. I worked long hours because I believed in what I did, and he believed in comfort in staying small. He started to cheat. I found out 2 years in. I stayed anyway, thought I could fix it. You know how that story ends. Yeah, I said quietly, I do. She looked at me. It's been 3 years since we split. I've dated a little, nothing serious. Every time I think something might grow, it fizzles or it's built on nothing real. And I started to wonder, maybe I'm too much, or maybe I missed my chance. You didn't miss anything, I said without thinking. You just haven't met someone who sees it yet. Her eyes flicked toward me for a moment, like she was trying to decide whether or not to believe that. And what about you, she asked. What's your story? I chuckled softly. It's not as heavy, but it's not perfect either. I got married at 25. We had Max a year later. He's the best thing I've ever done, no question. But the marriage, it was quiet. No fights, no passion either. We were more like roommates than partners by the end. She left first and I didn't blame her. I think we were both just waiting for someone to call it. Marley nodded slowly, like she understood that all too well. I guess, I added, I've been focused on work and being a dad, and somewhere along the way, I forgot what it feels like to be seen by someone. That last line hung in the air between us. She reached across the table and touched my hand just for a second. Well, she said gently, now you're seen. I didn't move, didn't say anything, just held her gaze for a moment. It wasn't a date, not in the traditional sense, but by the time we walked out of that cafe, I knew something had shifted. We didn't make plans, didn't talk about what this is. We just stood outside in the cool night air. I'll walk you to your car, I offered. She smiled. Thanks. Her car was parked down the block. We didn't say much as we walked. When we got there, she opened the door and turned to me. This was really nice, she said. It was, I agreed. I'm glad you messaged me. Me too. There was a moment, a beat too long, the kind where you wonder whether to lean in or walk away. But I didn't lean in. I just looked at her and said, "Good night, Marley." She smiled. "Good night, Kane." And I walked away. The following week moved slower than usual. I kept myself busy with jobs, small ones mostly, but my head wasn't fully in it. I'd catch myself thinking about Marley in the middle of screwing in a cabinet hinge or driving across town to patch drywall. That coffee changed something. It didn't feel like just a nice conversation. It felt like the beginning of a connection I hadn't let myself hope for in a long time. We didn't text much that week, just a few short messages, a check-in, a joke. Nothing heavy. I didn't want to push anything too fast. And from the way she responded, warm but careful, I sensed she felt the same. But the space between us didn't feel like distance. It felt like two people figuring out whether to take the next step. Then came Saturday. I had just finished a morning job replacing some bathroom tile and was back at home eating a late lunch on the porch when her name lit up my phone. "Marley, crazy idea, call me when you can." I called her immediately. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey," she said, her voice light but unsure. "Okay, so this is going to sound impulsive." "I like impulsive," I said, setting my plate aside. She laughed nervously. "I've had this trip booked for months, China a week. I've always wanted to go. It was supposed to be with a friend, but she bailed last minute." "Okay," I said slowly, already knowing where this might be going. And I was just sitting here thinking I don't want to go alone. I've been putting this off for years and I finally bought the damn ticket. I was going to cancel, but then I thought, what if I didn't? What if I just asked? There was a beat of silence. "Kane," she continued, "would you come with me?" I froze for a second, not out of hesitation, but surprise. I wasn't expecting that. We'd known each other less than a month. We'd only been on one real outing, but the idea didn't scare me. It excited me. "When's the flight?" I asked. "Monday night." "Okay," I said. "Wait, okay, like you need to think about it, or okay, like you'll come?" "Okay, like, yeah, I'll come." She let out a breath, almost like a laugh of disbelief. "Really? Really?" I said. "Why not?" And just like that, something shifted again. I cleared my work schedule for the week, packed a small suitcase, and got my passport out of the drawer I hadn't opened in over 2 years. Max would be with his mom the whole week anyway, and I hadn't taken time off in a long while. We met at the airport Monday evening. She was already at the gate when I arrived, sitting by the window, her carry-on at her feet. She stood when she saw me, eyes lighting up in a way that immediately put me at ease. "You really did it," she said. "You asked." The flight was long, 12 hours direct into Beijing, but we talked through most of it about everything about nothing, family work, childhood stuff, favorite foods, travel dreams. The kind of conversation that unravels naturally when you're trapped in a cabin at 30,000 feet with no real distraction but each other. When we landed, it was morning. The city was buzzing, taxi horns, thick air movement everywhere. Marley had everything planned. She wasn't the type to wing it. We checked into a quiet hotel tucked behind a narrow side street. Nothing fancy but clean and charming twin beds. I noticed that. She caught my glance and smirked. "Let's keep this simple." "Absolutely, Bun," I said, matching her smile. That first day we hit the Temple of Heaven, wandered through the narrow alleys of a Hutong neighborhood, ate street food we couldn't pronounce. Marley was in her element, curious, open, excited. I saw a different side of her than I had back home, a woman who didn't just want to exist quietly. She wanted to live loudly, not obnoxiously, just fully. The second day we hiked a quieter section of the Great Wall. I watched her climb the uneven steps ahead of me, wine whipping through her hair, laughing when she nearly tripped on a loose stone. "This is insane," she shouted, turning back to me. "I can't believe I'm here." "Me neither," I said, catching up, "but I'm glad we are." We sat on the wall for a while, drinking warm bottled water and catching our breath. That's when she turned to me and said, "You know, I almost didn't send that text. I was sitting in my kitchen for an hour trying to decide if I was crazy." "Maybe you are," I said, "but I'm glad you're the right kind of crazy." She nudged me with her shoulder. "You're not so bad yourself, Kane." The rest of the week moved like a dream. We took trains to Hangzhou and Suzhou, floated on boats through ancient canals, visited gardens that looked like paintings. Each night we'd talk until we couldn't keep our eyes open, sometimes in the lobby, sometimes out on the sidewalk. But we never crossed a line, not once. And that made it feel more real. On the sixth night, we sat in a tea house tucked into a quiet alley in Chengdu. It was late. A soft rain tapped against the windows. She looked tired but content, peaceful in a way I hadn't seen before. "I've never felt this close to someone I barely know," she said softly, holding her cup between her hands. "I don't think time decides that," I replied. "Some people you have known for years never see you. Others only need a moment." She nodded, setting her cup down slowly. "I don't want this to end when we go home," she said. "Neither do I." We didn't kiss. There was no dramatic music swelling in the background, just a quiet agreement between two people who'd finally stepped out of survival mode and into something better. That night, we walked back to the hotel under one umbrella, and for the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. We flew back to the States the following Monday. The flight home felt different. We talked less, but not because things had changed. It was that kind of quiet that only comes after spending so much time together. You already know what the other person's thinking. There's a comfort in silence when the connection is real. When we landed, we took the same cab back to our houses. It was early evening. The sky was soft and pale, that in-between light just before sunset. The driver pulled up to her curb, and for a second we both just sat there, not moving. "This is the part where I usually just go inside and pretend like nothing happened," Marley said, half joking. I turned to her. "And is that what you want to do?" She didn't answer right away. She reached down, unbuckled her seatbelt, and looked at me like she was searching for something behind my eyes. "No, it's not." She leaned over, kissed me on the cheek, not quick, not romantic either, more like a promise. "Text me when you get home." "I'll call," I said. We smiled and she got out. I watched her walk to her door, and just like that, she was inside. The drive back to my house felt surreal, like waking up from a dream that actually followed you into the real world. I kept thinking about all the little moments on the trip, the way she looked at street performers, like they were telling her something, the way she got quiet when we passed families with kids, the way she said thank you every time I handed her something, even if it was just a napkin or an umbrella. I got home, unpacked, a few things stood in the middle of my kitchen for a good 5 minutes before finally calling her. "Hey," she answered almost immediately. "I'm back," I said. "Me too." Neither of us knew what to say next. It was a pause, but not the uncomfortable kind. It was more like we both knew this was the moment where it could either stay a memory or become something real. So I said carefully, "What now?" She was quiet for a beat, then she said, "Well, I was thinking maybe I can make dinner this weekend, just something simple, and maybe you bring Max." That stopped me, not in a bad way, just heavy important. "You sure?" I asked. "I want to meet the most important person in your life. If this is real, and I think it is, I want to be part of all of it, not just the travel or the light conversations, all of it." I let out a slow breath. "Okay, yeah, we'll come by." And we did. That Saturday, I brought Max over. He was shy at first, typical 5-year-old stuff, but Marley didn't try too hard. She just let him take his time. She had juice boxes ready-made, homemade mac and cheese, and even let him sit on the counter while she cooked. By the end of the night, he was showing her how he could count to 110, and she was laughing like she'd known him for years. It wasn't a flashy beginning. No fireworks, no big speeches, but it felt steady, right? Like something we could actually build on. Weeks turned into months. We started seeing each other regularly, some weekends with Max, some just the two of us. We took it slow, but not out of fear, out of respect. She came with me to one of Max's soccer games in the fall. I helped her set up shelves in her home office. She met my mom at Thanksgiving. Everything moved naturally, without drama, without confusion. 3 months in, she told me she was pregnant. She was terrified. So was I. But when we sat down together that night, staring at the positive test, I remember saying, "We'll figure it out together." And we did. We got married in a quiet backyard ceremony. The following spring. Nothing huge, just family, a few friends, Max, walking down the aisle with a ring box in his tiny hand and the world's biggest grin on his face. Marley wore a simple white dress. I wore a navy suit. There were no nerves, just calm. That was 3 years ago now. I'm sitting on the same porch where I once read her first message. The sun's going down. Marley's inside rocking our youngest little June, who just turned 1. Max is in the yard trying to teach our dog how to catch a frisbee. It's not going great, but he's determined. And me, I'm just sitting here thinking about that day, that simple day when I opened my app, saw a $500 job and thought, easy work, quick money. I came to do a simple repair and I left with a whole new life. People talk about love at first sight. That wasn't us. We didn't crash into each other like a movie. We met, we talked, we listened, we built something slowly, quietly, truthfully. And it turns out sometimes that the biggest changes in your life start with the smallest decisions. Would I have ever guessed that mounting a TV would lead me here? Not in a million years, but I'm glad it did. The story of Cain and Marley teaches us a powerful lesson. The courage to embrace vulnerability can transform a fleeting moment into a lifelong connection. Cain, a handyman with a steady but solitary life, met Marley during a routine job. But her honest question, do you think I deserve to be happy, sparked something deeper. Their impulsive trip to China, born from Marley's bold invitation, shows that taking a chance on someone can lead to profound growth. Cain's willingness to step out of his comfort zone despite past heartbreak and Marley's openness about her struggles reveal that love isn't about perfection or timing, it's about showing up authentically. Their slow, intentional journey from coffee to a shared life with Max and their daughter June reminds us that the most meaningful relationships are built on quiet trust, not grand gestures. Marley's choice to invite Cain into her world and his decision to meet her there teaches us to seize unexpected opportunities even when they scare us. Life's greatest moments often start with a simple choice to say yes to connection, to hope, to a new beginning. So dare to take that leap, to let someone see you, and to build something real. One honest step at a time. Have you ever taken a chance that changed your life? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. If this story touched you, subscribe and join our community for more tales of courage and connection. Let's keep inspiring each other to embrace life's possibilities.